John 8 says, at dawn he went to the temple complex again, and all the people were coming to him. Of course, talking about Jesus. He's hanging out at the temple like he loves to do. Did that all the time. Always go, talk to people, kids, adults, anybody that asked him a question, he'd answer. Always spoke, always there, very compassionate person. This day was something a little special, a little different, a little not normal, but yet it was something that was happening. See, Jesus had been kind of bucking the system a little bit, kind of making the scribes, Pharisees, all the leaders of the church there, making them uncomfortable, making them wonder, who is this guy? He's kind of talking almost like he's a god or something. I don't quite get it. So we got to check into him. So this day, they decided we're going to get him. We're going to catch him. We're going to trick him. So one of the scribes came up with this woman, had her by the arm. By the way, I add a few of my own little personal things. Can you read the Bible and just read it for words? I have to imagine what's the scenery like? What does it sound like? What's the ground look like? I got to know everything. So I add in my own little personal touches. So bear with me, because I'm going to do that today. So they take this woman, they throw her down at the ground right beside Jesus. Now, there's a bunch of people there, but there's a handful of scribes and Pharisees all come up. Every one of them's holding a rock about the size of a baseball. And the scribe says, "Teacher," to Jesus. Now, teacher's supposed to be a very respectful term. But in this case, they were mocking him. They were mocking him. "Teacher, you think you're a teacher. Answer this. This woman was caught in the very act of adultery. Very act. And according to Hebrew law, she has to be stoned to death. Has to be. No question." So the man asked Jesus, "What should we do?" You know what Jesus did? He knelt down right beside the woman. In fact, he probably got on his knees. I can imagine he got right down right next to her. He was probably looking at her. They thought he was ignoring him. Oh, he was hearing them. He was hearing them. But his focus was on her. His focus was on the sinner. The sinner. You know what she's thinking? I don't even deserve to be here, much less in the temple. She probably has not even graced the steps of the temple since she was a little child. She probably tried to stay away because she felt guilty of her sin. I just want to tell you something. You're sitting in a reserved seat. Did you know that? You're sitting in a reserved seat, every one of you. Because these seats are only reserved for sinners. They're not reserved for the perfect people. She thought they were the perfect people. The scribes, Pharisees, of course they're perfect. That's why they're in charge of the church, right? Not the way it works. She didn't get it. But Jesus was right there with her. He didn't say a word. Oh, they were getting frustrated. "Come on, Jesus. What should we do?" Now, if Jesus would have said, "You follow the law and stone her," you know what they would have done? They got him. They got him. Two ways. One, Jesus has been talking about forgiveness, compassion, and hope. That goes totally against everything he said. So all these people that were there listening to him would go, "That's not what you've been saying. It doesn't make sense." Or if Jesus would have said, "Stone her," right there, Hebrew law, Jesus cannot make that decision. So the scribes were taking him right to the Romans and say, "Hey, he's trying to do your job. He broke your law too." So you got him. If he says forgive, if he says condemn, he's trapped. In fact, if he says forgive the scribes and Pharisees, oh, what? You think you're God? You think you can say what God's going to say? No, you're not God. That's blasphemy. So he's trapped. They knew it. They had him. Still does. So did they. All of a sudden, you start hearing this. One rock down. Another rock down. Third rock hits the ground. Now, she's not watching. I'm Steve Childers. I have been a member of this church. My family and I have been members here. I am not the preacher. I'm not Mark. Hey, Mark, y'all turn around and wave to Mark. He's out there. He said he'd check in on us. I also want to say hey to my mom and dad. They couldn't make it today. They almost could make it. It was close, but they couldn't make it. But, hey, Mom, Dad. Been coming to this church here, Hope Church, ever since the first Sunday in this building. First service in this building. My wife and I and my kids, we've been coming here ever since. Long time. First couple of years or so, it was at the middle school. We, for whatever reason, refused to check it out. My dad kept saying, come on, you got to go. See, my dad's a preacher. He's retired now. But he knew Tommy, who started Hope Church. He kept saying, you got to go. You got to find out this guy. You got to check him out. I said, nah, it's at a middle school. I don't get a middle school. So we decided to come and haven't left since. Thank you, Mark, for letting me speak today. He asked me about a month ago, told me he had to be out with his family, said go speak. But I want to say this. I am my parents' favorite child. You laugh. Of course I am. I have two sisters, older and younger. I am the only one that they named after a significant person in the Bible. Me. Moses. Moses was asked to come to the mount and speak to a golden, burning, fiery bush. God talked to him through a bush. Says, Moses, take off thy shoes, for ye are on holiest of groundest. I guess God talks in King James. I'm not sure. He did. And Moses took off his shoes. And then God said, Moses, I am your father. Well, I think Darth Vader said that, but he did. He spoke. Now, my parents didn't pick Moses, but that's a cool name, though. David, King David. You know about King David, right? He was also a shepherd boy. He wrote all kinds of stuff in the Bible. Oh, man, could he write? He wrote the songs. He did everything. King David, before he became king, when he was a little shepherd boy, he met and faced Goliath. Some scholars say Goliath was up to 9 feet tall. David picked up a small little stone, put it in his sling. Now, his sling was only 2 leather straps, one of them wrapped around his wrist, the other one in his hand. Small little pocket, rock going, he'd sling it, let go. Boom! Right in the forehead of Goliath. Now, I can remember in Sunday school when I was growing up, the picture of Goliath is just like a little bruise right there, and he's like laying down. Oh, no. They've done tests equivalent to a .45 caliber bullet. It went in the forehead, through the brain, jumbled it up, and maybe even came out the back. He was dead before he hit the ground. David. My parents didn't name me after David. I didn't get that name. Peter. Oh, Peter's my all-time favorite disciple. You got a favorite disciple? Everybody got a favorite disciple? I love Peter. You know why I love Peter? He's just a guy. Ain't nothing special about Peter. He fished. I like to fish. He probably likes NASCAR. I like NASCAR. I mean, he's just a guy. He just hung out. But Jesus says, Peter, you are the rock. Peter said, well, what about Don Johnson? No, you're the rock, man. You are the rock. Petra. Foundation. Some people, it's controversial, but some people say that Peter, because of that, Peter was the foundation of the church. Wow. I didn't get Peter. You know who I got? I found out when I was in elementary school, like third or fourth grade, my parents said, hey, we named you Stephen, P-H-E-N, after the first Christian. I was like, woo! I went around and said, hey, I'm a Bible guy. Stephen, that's me. Best friend, Carlton Rice. Carlton and I were best friends from middle school and high school. I didn't know him in elementary because we'd moved. Middle and high school, we were college roommates. But in 7th grade, Carlton came and said, hey, by the way, that Stephen guy you were named after, he was a druggie. Druggie. Yeah, he smoked pot. Pot? He weed. You telling me he, yep, and he died. That's in the Bible. I said, it is. Because in the Bible it says Stephen was stoned and died. Thanks, Mom and Dad. Mom, druggie. Was he a dealer too, or was he just used to stuff? I didn't know. So I went home. I said, okay, Mom, here we go. I got to ask you a question. Dad being the preacher, you know. So, hey, you named me after Stephen in the Bible, right? Yeah, we did. Do you know he was a druggie? Huh? Yeah, he smoked pot. What? Weed, yeah. Yes, it said he got stoned and he died in the Bible. That's what it says right there in the Bible. My mom said, oh, no, honey. That's not how it worked. No. He was the first Christian martyr. I'm not sure I like the way this is going here. Martyr, what do you mean? He said, yeah, he came out after Jesus had died, rose, went to heaven, everything. He came out and said, I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus as my Savior, the Son of God. And all the religious leaders got so mad they took him out and stoned him and killed him. So I have a choice. I got a guy that gets killed because he says he loves Jesus, or he's a druggie. I don't know. So I was confused. But okay, so I'm getting the picture. I decided to do a little research on this guy. It's interesting. If you look up in Acts 7, in fact, there's a whole chapter of Stephen talking. Now, let me set this up. This is kind of cool. I didn't realize this until I started really searching on this. Jesus had died, went to heaven, went to hell, then came back up, came to earth, and then went to heaven, ascended to heaven, everything. But before he left, he told all his disciples, says, hey, go out to all the world and preach the gospel. Gospel meaning the good news, right? Preach it out. Okay. They say, yeah, we can do that. Then they kind of looked around and went, wait, there's only 11 of us. Because the 12th guy, Judas, who betrayed Jesus, he hung himself. So there's only 11, so they decided, well, we need to pick 12th guy. It's only 11. We need 12 of us. Jesus said 12, so we better get 12. So they did a job search. They did, put some signs up, help wanted, all that kind of stuff. They used ZipRecruiter to kind of help that a little bit. They had a couple of face-to-face, a few Zoom meetings, and they picked a 12th disciple. But it wasn't Stephen, but in the process of looking, they found Stephen and went, this guy's pretty good. We're going to hire you as our outreach minister. Okay. I'll take the job. What is it? He says, you are going to work with all the children. That's pretty cool. I'll do that. Help them out. You got some orphans. You got some single-parent kids. You're just going to work with them all. So I'm thinking, you know what I've done all my life? I was a youth minister. I worked in youth camps, and I've been teaching for over 33 years, about to start my 34th year teaching. Well, that's pretty cool. So that kind of fits a little bit. Yeah. Kind of Stephen and I are a little bit like that, And so he did that. Now, Stephen, though, was very outspoken. He spent a lot of time complaining and arguing with the leaders of the church there. Now, Stephen was a member of a church, see if I can get it right, it's the Libertarian, I'm missing the translation, but it was a very cutting-edge kind of church, very contemporary. Very contemporary. People didn't dress up much. They just came, sat wherever they want to. They had a band. People played drums. electric guitars. Oh, yeah, it was that kind of church. It was very contemporary. It wasn't your typical standard synagogue. And so this church that he belonged to, it was very radical. And he started speaking up. While the scribes and Pharisees and the priests, they didn't like that. He's kind of sounding like Jesus again. We already had to get rid of that one Jesus guy. Now we got another one coming. Okay. So Stephen is out there, and he's kind of speaking out. And the scribes decided, we're gonna get him. We're gonna find some people to have to lie about what Stephen's saying. And so they lied. They said, this Stephen guy, you know what he said? He said, Abraham is not even real. He said, Moses and his law, it's fake. That's what they said Stephen said. Of course, Stephen didn't say that. Not at all. Didn't say anything. So Stephen decided to defend himself, but he didn't really defend himself against the lies. He defended his faith. He spoke up about his faith. And it was long. I mean, it's a whole, I won't even come close to reading it, but I want to read the very last thing he said. After he spoke about David, after he spoke about Moses, after he spoke about everything that led up to this point, Stephen said this to the scribes and the Pharisees right there. He said, you stubborn people, you are heathen at heart and deaf of the truth. Must you forever resist the Holy Spirit? That's what he said. He also said in other translations, you are spiritually uncircumcised, meaning you are dirty. You ever tell a Jew they're uncircumcised? Ooh, you're in trouble. And at this point, the scribes and Pharisees got so mad, it said they started gnashing their teeth. That's the way I think of gnashing. I don't know what gnashing really is. But that's it. And Stephen then stepped back, and he looked up into the clouds. Clouds opened up, and he said, I can see into heaven. And all these people are going, what? Heaven? He said, in heaven, I see God the Almighty sitting on his throne, and standing next to him is Jesus, my Savior. People got so mad, they grabbed him, threw him out of the synagogue, and immediately started stoning him. Stoning him, it didn't take long, just a handful of throws. Stephen, while being stoned, and this is interesting, he must have been wearing his WWJD bracelet. What would Jesus do bracelet? This is what he did. He's being stoned. He says, Father, into your hands, I give you my spirit. And then he said this. I want to read exactly the way he worded it. He said, Lord, don't charge them with this sin. Don't charge them with this sin. Don't make it a fee. Don't cost them anything. And then he died. Here's something really fascinating. This is what I like about the Bible. So many little things match up. Standing way over here, not way over here, but standing over here somewhere, was a guy named Saul. Young kid. Wasn't grown up yet, but just a guy named Saul. He was either holding or at the feet. He was taking care of everybody. He was the coat checker. He was the coat checker. Everybody that came in to throw the stones, he hung on to the coats. Stephen's over here dying. He says, don't hold any of this against him. Don't charge them with this sin. I wonder if he looked at Saul when he said that. Because you know who Saul ended up being? The Apostle Paul. Saul, who condemned and persecuted Christians, was met on the road with Jesus spiritually, and Jesus told him, and he heard Jesus speak, Saul, why do you persecute me? Now, pretty much the greatest writings in the Bible came from Paul. If it wasn't for that simple little prayer that Stephen did, we may not have had Paul. Isn't that pretty cool? Interesting. Compassion, forgiveness, hope. That's our hope. Now, when Stephen's dying, what did I say Stephen said before that Jesus was standing? I always wondered, why would he be standing? Why did Jesus stand? Because anywhere else you read, it says, Jesus was sitteth at the right hand of God. But this time he's standing. This is my thought. I don't know, it doesn't say, but I'm going to give you my answer. This is what I think. I don't think he was standing going, hey, Dad, you got to see this. They're about to take this guy out. Look, oh, boy, that would have had to hurt. Now, he wasn't saying that. This is what he was doing. He was standing back here facing the throne of God, the ruler of all. He said, all right, remember, I went to earth as a human. I went down to teach them that forgiveness, compassion, and hope. Willing to die on a cross, have nails driven through my hands and my feet for Stephen. I went down for Stephen. I took Stephen's sins because he doesn't deserve this. Sin will put Stephen in hell. But God, your grace and my sacrificial lamb, being the sacrificial lamb, will save him. Imagine, Jesus isn't up there just blanketly saying, hey, all these people, I did this for them. No, he's calling you by name. He calls you by name. Stephen, it was all focused on him. Think about that. This was the most important 5 words you could hear all day. Guy said it's Friday, but Sunday's coming. It's Friday, but Sunday's coming. Think about that. It's Friday, but Sundays are coming. It's hope in Jesus Christ. You've all had your Saturdays. You all had your Fridays. We've all had them. I had a Friday about almost 28 years ago. Our oldest daughter, she's about to be 28. When she was 2 months old, we went to the pediatrician. Regular old checkup. Weigh, measure, tickle the toes, count the fingers, all the stuff. And then our pediatrician started poking around like they do. You know, they poke around. Then he stopped, and he walked out. Didn't say a word. My wife and I were like, that's weird. He comes back in with another pediatrician, one of the others that works in his office. They both came in and said, poke right there. So they both poked around. He said, I think your daughter has an enlarged spleen and liver. Large spleen and liver. It's not normal. I want you to go to a specialist soon, next couple of days. The specialist is an oncologist that works down at Scottish Rite. Scottish Rite. Get my hospitals mixed up here on this one. Scottish Rite. We want you to go. Now, I heard the word oncology, cancer, leukemia. I heard that. I was crushed right there. But I realized my wife didn't hear that word. I was looking at her, and she's sitting there pulling out her calendar, trying to figure out, okay, what's the date? We got to get it scheduled because that's what she does. And that part missed her. It's like, wow. So my Friday hit me. That was my Friday right there. That was it. I was done. A couple days later, in fact, I actually think it was on a Friday, we go down to Scottish Rite with our child in tow. We're there to meet the doctor. We're walking down the hall, and it's a children's hospital, so there's pictures on the wall that kids have painted and drawn. Pretty cool. I said, oh, let's go, you know. And my wife stops at a picture, dead still, stares at it, and she says, that girl used to go to our school where I teach. She had cancer. That was the moment my wife's Friday hit. She realized where we were. We were going to check a horrible, evil disease for our 2-month-old baby. We were hurting. We walked in. Doc was there. He was awesome. They did blood tests. they went ahead and started doing all kinds of sonograms and x-rays and CT scans, all kinds of stuff. Every month we would go back. This happened for about 3 years. We go back. And every time they do a blood test, it would be about 5 days before we get a phone call with the results. I was done those 5 days. I was teaching. I couldn't even think. I don't know. I probably didn't teach anything. I probably just stood in front of the class, and the kids were like, "What's going on?" I don't know. Don't worry about it. I was shocked. I was in shock. Then we get the phone call. Well, we haven't found anything yet, but we want to come back next month. Okay. Next month. Just kept going, month after month. My mom worked, at the time, she worked for the head of pediatrics of Emory Hospital. And he had a friend that was up at Johns Hopkins University, Johns Hopkins Hospital and Research Lab. And so he said, "Hey, I'd like to send some of the results of your daughter up to him and let him look at it." Sure. All the help we could get, because they can't find anything, can't figure out what's going on. Nothing. That's frustrating. That's devastating. We still don't know. You know, it's nice to know, but not knowing is it's tough. So she's a case study up there now, getting all this going. After about 3 years, now our Sunday came sort of gradual. This wasn't a moment. Boom. This is a gradual. They came and said, "You know what? Your daughter's spleen and liver are perfectly fine. They are as normal as can be, just happen to be larger. But because of the studies and the research we've done, we can use that information to help other babies that have the same issues and determine whether theirs are healthy or not. And we can treat sooner." In fact, the specialist says, "I don't know much about your pediatrician, but you better never leave him. You better keep him for life. For him to find this, he shouldn't have been able to see this. To be as thorough as he was amazing. You can stick with him." Still the same pediatrician all these years. Our twins now use them. So that Sunday kind of came gradual, but it was a nice one to know. They said this is such a rare thing. We don't even have a name for this condition. That's how rare it was. One more Friday. Now, this Friday took 19 years to be answered. It was a tough one for me. 19 years ago, my wife got pregnant. We got pregnant. We had a little baby, pregnant and everything. Went in early on. They did the little scans and stuff. Said, "We can't hear the heartbeat yet, but that's not unusual. It's still early." But so things were going well, not really any issues, and it was been going a while. We're still in the first trimester, if I get my trimesters right. And she walked in one day. We were at home, and she came in to me where I was, and she said, "I think I just had a miscarriage." I was devastated. That was a loss I couldn't handle. I had two emotions. I was hurt, and I was angry. I mean, mad angry. I was angry at God. The whole time I kept saying, "Why us?" That was the only thing I could say. Why us? Every prayer started and finished with, "Why us?" That was it. I know people have lost family members. I know people have lost loved ones, friends. That happens. But this was me. You know what I'm saying? It was me. I lost a child I will never get to hold. I lost a child I'll never get to tell my stupid dad jokes and hear them cackle. I lost a child that I'll never get to teach ride a bicycle or anything. I had lost my child. In fact, I thought it was a little girl. We didn't know what it was. We hadn't even gone to that step yet. But in my mind, it was a little girl. Little girl. I lost my daughter, my second daughter. It was hard. Sometime later, Nancy got pregnant again. We were scared. I guess that's the next emotion that kicked in. We were scared. We went in. She was 6 weeks pregnant. We found out we were having twins at 6 weeks. That's crazy. 6 weeks having twins. And it wasn't much after that we were able to determine it was a boy and girl. Little boy, little girl. Our twins are here today. Healthy, born, everything, no problem. The answer to my anger, not the answer to my question of why us, but the answer to my anger came while we were pregnant with the twins. My younger sister had her youngest daughter. She was about 4 at the time. She knew that our first child I thought was going to be a girl, because I talked about it as her. I used to say her all the time. She knew that. So this 4-year-old little girl helped me get over my anger. And this is what she said. She told her mom, and her mom, my sister, told me. She said, you know, Stephen and Nancy's, Aunt Stephen and Uncle Nancy's baby, the one that wasn't born, I think she decided to go back up to heaven because her little brother wasn't ready to come down yet. And she wanted to stay with him because he was lonely, and then they could come down together. Logically, that's not true, right? That can't happen. But a 4-year-old child told me that. My anger went away. I didn't have the answer to why me, why us, but the anger went away. I never denied God. I never gave up on God. I was just angry at him. He definitely didn't give up on me. I got the answer to the why us about 2 months ago. I'm almost done. Sorry for going long. In our small group, we have a growth group. We meet every Sunday. It's kind of cool. We talk about all kinds of things. About 2 months ago, I'm guessing the time frame. It hadn't been too long. We were talking about something that Mark had spoke on that Sunday, and somehow we came up with the idea of, randomness of God, healings. How can some people heal and some people not? How can some people die, some people not? How does that happen? And I even asked this question. I said, what if you have 2 people that have cancer? My mom has cancer. She is cancer-free. Whoop, whoop. Thank you. But my mom was going through the final parts of her cancer at the time. So I kind of asked that question. 2 people have cancer. Both families pray their hearts out. One of them's healed. One of them dies. That's very random sounding to me. The why us kind of thing. But I asked that. I didn't ask it just to be mean or ask it to be, it's just like, that's just something, just wonder, Well, one of the people in our small group there, they had recently had a loss in their family. And she said, we used to wonder that too, how random things is. In fact, she used this term. She said, we used to ask God, why us? Oh. The very words I used 19 years ago, she just used exactly the same thing I said. Why us? And I was like, I don't have the answer. She had the answer. Wow. I even told her that's the most beautiful thing I could ever hear. Most beautiful thing. She said, why not us? Why not us? She said, look, this was her explanation. She said, everybody goes through loss. Everybody goes through loss. To some people, you look at and go, okay, yeah. Other people go, wow, that's really tough. But it's loss. Personal loss. We go through that. We go through trials. We go through Fridays. She said, imagine someone going through the loss that we've gone through that weren't Christian, that didn't have the hope of Jesus Christ in their heart, didn't have anybody to pray to ask for healing. And of course, you can use the argument, well, the person who died, if they were Christians, yes, they've been healed anyway. Spiritually, they're okay. Forgiveness, compassion, hope. I'm going to ask the band to come up at this time. They can kind of start working their way I'm going to try to sing a song for you. I'm going to get Christian to help me. The band's going to actually play a real song after mine. I'm going to try to sing a song here. We'll steal Scott's stand. This is a song by Rhett Walker Band. Now, it's called All I Need. Talks about storms, flooding, our heart filled with just hurt and pain. And one of the early lines says, I don't know what I should even pray. Have you ever been there? You go, I don't even know what to pray. I'm so hurt. I'm so lost. I'm so frustrated. I'm so angry. I don't even know what to pray. And then one of the last lines says that you're the rising day. You're the rising day. Wow. That's Jesus. That's Sunday. You're the rising day on Sunday. So while I sing this, you're welcome to stay seated. You can stand if you want to sing along, if you want to just sit there. Kind of treat this like a little bit of a prayer to close my sermon. The altar's always open. If you want to come up here and pray, you can. When I'm done, band will step up and they will sing their final song, and then I'll give a conclusion. So. I got to start on. Sorry. This is me. That's all we need. Faith, hope.
Let's pray real quick. Yeah. Dear Lord, thank you for being you. Thank you for being forgiving, compassionate, and hopeful. Because you're all we've got. You are with us at all times when we're hurting, when we're broken. You are our hope. You give us forgiveness, and we know we don't deserve it, but we get it. So let us come to you. Let us lean on you. Be with us, Lord.